Hey, how's it going guys? Tech Notice here, and after using the iPhone X for roughly about 4 months now, I can finally say that Face ID sucks. Now don't get me wrong, Face ID is really good compared to other facial recognition systems such as those on the Androids, however it isn't on par with what we expect from Touch ID. Now behind it here we do have two generations of Touch ID. We have first generation running on the iPhone 5s, and then we have the second generation running on the iPhone 6s and above. Now overall the usability and consistency that Touch ID provides is just way beyond that of Face ID. Now if you guys haven't already done so, go check that video out of Touch ID first generation versus Face ID on the iPhone X. Now as I mentioned previously, Touch ID is very consistent. You guys can pretty much guarantee every time you place your thumb on it, it will recognize, it will bring you inside. Now the only downside is when your finger does get wet, it does not recognize there, which prompts you to enter your passcode. However, it's gotten much better with the second generation Touch ID version. It got to the point where Touch ID second generation is way too fast and people were actually complaining about it. Now in terms of speed, I do feel that Face ID is still slower than Touch ID first generation. You guys can see the insane speed of how fast it lets you in your device. Not even mentioning that second generation, which is insane. You guys can get in a matter of milliseconds. Instead, the Face ID here takes more than 1 full second. Now just to demo it for you guys here before we begin all the tests, we're just gonna tap onto the Touch ID first generation and pretty much we're in. And then we'll pull up the second generation right here. We'll tap on it and you guys can see instantly we are inside. Now just for comparison here, we have the iPhone X and we have to swipe up and it will scan the face and then it will let me in. Now this is behind the camera, so it is a little bit more difficult. However, with Touch ID, there is no issue. There's nothing that's gonna be blocking in the way other than your thumb and the sensor. Now this isn't a very scientific test, but I'm gonna do my best here to give you guys a look at how fast Touch ID is on the first generation. I'll lift it up all at one time and we'll get in. So pretty much about the same speed there. I did have a little bit of a delay because the iPhone 5s does not have raise to wake, but we're gonna give it another shot here before we jump onto the second generation. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So roughly about the same speed there. So I gotta say that Face ID and first generation Touch ID is roughly about the same. Alright, and we're gonna move over to the second generation Touch ID here, and you guys will definitely see the difference. Since both of these have raise to wake, we're gonna raise them the same time and we're gonna click onto the button the same time as well. So raise it up and we'll swipe up. So you guys can see the delay there already. It does take a little bit of a longer time, but just to make it a little bit more easier for you guys to see, we're gonna put them on a stand and let's see how they do. Alright, and now we have them stacked up side by side. I'm gonna give you guys a quick comparison and you guys can measure it yourself how fast each one locks in. The first one we're gonna start out with is gonna be the iPhone 5s, so we'll tap onto it. Alright, and the iPhone X and the iPhone 7. So you guys can see all the difficulty that comes with the iPhone X over here. Of course, this isn't the easiest way in front of the camera for the iPhone X. So the only thing is there's not many limitations that comes with Touch ID other than water or whatever is blocking your thumb from on the sensor. However, with Face ID, there's so many ways you can be in a different direction where it doesn't recognize. A good example here is when you're laying on your bed and you're on your side. It won't recognize if you have a little bit of a blanket or you guys are underneath a pillow, where Touch ID just works pretty much all the time in the dark. No limitations whatsoever. The only thing, as I mentioned, is probably whatever's blocking you from your sensor and the thumb. Now the next one I want to show you here is one of the biggest difficulty that comes with Face ID. I don't know many other instances where Face ID matters this much. This is when I pull up and get ready to pay. I have had so much problem with Face ID where Touch ID just always worked 100%. So I'll give you guys an example right here. So let's pull it out of my pocket and tap onto the side button. Now it has to scan my face and most of the time it will say pay with passcode. In the times that it does work, when I reach my phone out of my pocket and tap it onto the contact list, this doesn't have a big radius enough where it can scan my face while I'm tapping it down. So I have to raise it back up again, scan my face and get it to work. Whereas the iPhone 6s and above here with second generation Touch ID, by the time I pull it out of my pocket, everything has already been scanned and I can just let go and it already has gone through the payment. Now it's even more ridiculous because the cashier is waiting for the transaction to go through while you're fiddling with your iPhone X. So once again here, we'll give it another shot. Just double tap onto the home button and it already has been scanned. Now it also works with first generation Touch ID as well. The first generation one, you do have to hold on a little bit longer than usual, but for the second generation, by the time you double click finish, it already has scanned your phone. So let's give it another shot right here, and when it does scan, you guys can see that by the time I put it onto the NFC scanner, it already didn't detect my face. So let's see how long it really takes here. We'll double tap onto the side button and you guys can judge for yourself. We'll double tap the side button and there it finally scans. So again, only those few milliseconds, it really matters when Apple Pay is in use. And here's both of them at the exact same time. We'll double tap. So just a few milliseconds there off, and that's what matters the most. Now don't get me wrong guys, Face ID is a really big revolution here. Facial recognition has been out there for a while, however they haven't perfected it enough to get it onto a mobile device. However, the first generation is lacking way behind the first generation Touch ID even. So at this point, I haven't been using Apple Pay much, and the unlocking process is just a little bit more difficult. Out of 10 times, I probably had to press in my passcode probably 3 times, whereas Touch ID out of 10 times, probably 10 times it got me in. So in the end, all of us are just requesting Apple to add a Touch ID sensor somewhere back under the device. We heard news and rumors that it will be underneath the screen here, so we can double tap here and get us inside. However, the best and easiest placement they can put it is probably on the lock or the side button right here. Every time you want to access Apple Pay, just double tap on it and you're already inside. Might be a little bit more difficult because the side button is a lot smaller than the Touch ID bar, but I'm sure Apple can work something around that. Right now, if they are going to be putting it in the display, it better be just as quick as Touch ID. Otherwise, it's probably no point to even put it in. Even if it's as good as Touch ID first generation, I'll still be very happy with it. But anyways guys, this should be it for my rant on Face ID, and this is a nice comparison between Face ID and Touch ID in 2018. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, please leave a thumbs up for this video, and if you guys disliked the video, just drop a dislike as well. But remember to hit that subscribe and notification button if you guys haven't already done so. This is it. Peace out.